reminder, board members, staff, guests, and members of the public are reminded the full authority board meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the authority's website along with the official written minutes. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and the general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority or the full board of directors. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the full authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the full authority. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Ian, did you have the one in close?
Closed, yeah.
Okay. I do not have a pecuniary interest, but I will recuse myself from the one item in close. So our first up is full authority minutes for April 18th. Any questions or comments? And a mover and a seconder to receive. Max? Marcel? All in favor? That's carried. We then have our project tracking report. Anything to add to that, Elizabeth?
Mr. Chair, there's lots of activity as we get into our busy season. You'll see from the media report, the trees are in and going into the grounds with a lot of community events throughout the watershed. The campgrounds opened on schedule May 1st as well, with lots of bookings coming up from the 2-4. We did have the slight setback with the ice storm on top of everything. The staff were able to get the limbs cleared and basically stage the campers coming into the campgrounds based on soil conditions. So that would be the combined project tracking and media report.
Just a quick question to you, Mr. Chair, regarding the stewardship and outreach. I see staff attend tall grass prairie sites. I'm guessing that would be Betsy. So I'm just wondering how the sites we're looking at, how many sites there were that we have right now that we're kind of monitoring that.
Mr. Chair, I have to follow up with Betsy for the exact number,
Okay.
but I can certainly get that information to you.
Oh,
Any other questions or comments? Marcel?
So, if staff could remind me, I saw it on one of the public information pieces that the campgrounds open on May 1st. When do they plan to be open?
May 1st.
Okay, so we open right
It did
on.
open on schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like probably a decent weekend. I think the campgrounds will be full. Let's hope. So if we can receive all these at once, or did you want them individually?
No, they're all for information so we can see from all of them.
Okay.
Before you receive,
Sure, Marcel?
are we going to speak about the Dillwood Trail at all outside of the media?
Yes, under item D, I would say if you have questions on that, we can answer them then.
So we have the watershed conditions report.
Go ahead. Want to receive it?
We're going to do a little. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a quick summary of April events and looking into May. Watershed conditions, water levels are normal, slightly higher than normal. They're reflecting the rain events that are moving through the system. We did issue a watershed condition statement flood outlook for Lake Erie storm surge on May 4th when we had a pretty windy day. No flooding or water concerns at this time. Just the next slide, please. This is just something that I thought might be interesting for you all to see. It's just basically what a month of hydrographs look like for the watershed. And you can see right in the middle of the month where the big Colorado low hit, And that just shows how high the flows were, but how quickly they recede again for the watershed. So that's April.
It's interesting. Any questions? Marcel?
So I know that we've spoken about this before, but sort of it's like quite different from the Upper Thames River, where your discharge is like a 2-day event. Is that right?
Our discharges vary with the amount of rain that we get, but generally speaking, they're quite short, anywhere like just less than 24 hours.
Less than one.
Thank
you.
Okay, Linda?
Thank you, and I appreciate the report. It was nice actually seeing you on the news everywhere, all that kind of stuff. My question is just around damage and that kind of thing, so reporting of what may have happened with the higher water levels, those kinds of things. We didn't have to close anything down, or I guess our responsibility for any damages that were caused by all this flooding and that.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
to
Jen.
Mr. Chair. We didn't have any reports from any damages for this particular event. This is a minor event. This was hardly a blip in the system. But if they're during a high water or flood event, we do work closely with municipalities. And if things need to be closed, then we provide information and the municipality makes those decisions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
Next we have Dan Patterson Trail opening. Imagine.
So, following the closure of the Dalewood North Trail, staff have developed a new trail system that connects the current Dan Patterson Trail with a portion of Dalewood North Trail. The new trail system is formed with 2 distinct loops. We called it the Wetland Trail and the Old Growth Trail. So the new system boasts 5 kilometers of natural hiking trail and will incorporate new educational signs along the way. The trail, it will reopen in June. A launch event is planned for Wednesday, June 20th at 1:00 p.m. immediately following the full authority meeting.
Do we have any questions concerning the new trail? If not now, probably when we go out to do the grand opening and walk part of it, if not all of it. Just throwing that out there. Thank you then. Next we have the Dalewood hydrometers update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just give a verbal update that all of the meters are installed successfully. Where staff's currently just working through the monitoring and reporting process of how we're going to notify the campers on a seasonal or on a monthly basis as to the status of their electrical use in relation to their deposit. One frustrating process that's come out of it, more with the electrical panel upgrades than the actual metering, is when dealing with 15 amp seasonal sites. Because we did an upgrade to the electrical panel and the outlets, we were required under the electrical code to install GFCI outlets. So that's, if you're not familiar, that's what you would see in your home, say in the bathroom or in the kitchen. It's got a little breaker outlet on the outlet, and it's dealing with areas that may be subject to moisture. So it's to prevent void or shock, or to avoid shock. So with these 15 amps, the breaker, as I understand it, trips when there's an imbalanced load on the hot and the ground wire, and it's very sensitive. 5 milliamps will trip that breaker. What we're finding is a lot of the seasonals on 15 amp sites, that breaker is tripping as soon as the trailer's plugged in. So we're having to go through some troubleshooting with the seasonal campers, through their adapter, their extension cords, through the electrical panels in their trailers to try and narrow down the issue that's causing that trip to happen. Doing some online search, it's not uncommon. There's lots of comments out there about GFCIs and issues with some camping trailers. So it's caused a bit of frustration, but the staff have been able to troubleshoot, work through the issues with each of the seasonals on 15 amp sites. Just of note, I think we maybe have 15. So 15 out of our 90 seasonals are 15 amp. My understanding is we've got about 95% happy that we've worked out all the issues, and there's still a couple that have to have an electrician look at their trailer, but we've narrowed the source down to 1 breaker. So it has been a bit of a frustrating process. Staff's a little worried about weekenders and transients showing up and that issue happening there. So certainly we do have some older areas in the campsite that haven't done upgrades, so they don't have the GFCI outlets in them. So if we do get into those situations with weekenders, we'll make sure we have other sites available to move them to if we can't work out the issue. But it is something that's beyond our control. It's required under the electrical code now for having them, and we're kind of troubleshooting it. It's more just a frustrating process than a real issue. So we just wanted to bring the board up to speed on that and be aware of that situation.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Any questions? Seeing none?
Just a comment, that's not an uncommon situation if those ground fault circuit interrupters. Back in my hydro days, this was when they first brought them in. There was a lot of issues with older electrical services, i.e. on the trailers and that sort of thing. Not uncommon, but not a real danger.
Right. Anything else? Seeing none, we have the Conservation Ontario update.
Mr. Chair, it was basically included for the information of members. I think the one item that I wanted to draw everyone's attention to is the administrative bylaws, the new administrative bylaws that we will be required to look at and enact over the coming months. Conservation Ontario has drafted a draft template, and I've attended a training session on that draft, and we'll be bringing that full process back to the board in June. We can work through that and hopefully have those bylaws in place by September.
London?
So is the intent for most conservation areas, if not all, to have common language?
Yes, so the Conservation Ontario has been working with MMR on a draft template, and that's being presented and to all of the conservation authorities as a recommended template to use the language around for their administrative bylaws. And I would say the majority of the CAs have indicated that they will go with that provided template.
And in your opinion, if we had to tweak it for something in particular to our conservation area, is that going to be an easy task or not?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the way the template is drafted is that there's elements in there that are CA specific. And so while it is very much a template, this board will still be able to have input into specifics of that template.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what we'll be going over in the next couple of months.
That's not a small job.
No, but it does make it easier to have a template that's already been reviewed.
Any other questions concerning that? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder then for all these reports? We have Linda, Bill. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Statement of revenue expenses, we don't have any of that today, right?
That's correct.
Under correspondence, we have one, and that's an invitation to the Middlesex County Warden's Charity Golf Tournament. Do you want to speak to that at all, Steve, or you want to?
I should be probably, but at this point in time, I haven't signed up.
So
But actually, Marcel is a county councilor, so he probably has more details.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I can speak to the fact that every year the warden chooses a golf course near their community to have a fundraiser for their choice. And it's a wonderful day, it's very social, and you network with many people through the community, so it's definitely an enjoyable day that you will get some out of, but it's certainly an entertaining day.
We have the same in Algon that was on last month's. And moving or seconder to receive correspondence then? Steve?
I should
Yeah.
probably further by saying, selling this by saying that everyone should attend.
I'm paying pressure.
So you should.
All those in favor? Yes. Steve and Ian.
Steve, Ian?
Okay, under new business, Deal with Dam Bridge Engineering Support.
Chair. As you're all probably aware, the Dalewood Bridge is proposed to be replaced, and as part of that work, there's an offsetting plan that affects part of KCCA lands to our benefit, to do some repairs on some of the embankments on the upstream side of the dam, which is definitely a good thing. However, as part of that work, we would like to request that Reeves Engineering provides engineering support during that Dalewood Bridge replacement project, up to an offset limit of $4,000. This will allow us to have an engineer who is available to answer questions, to be able to attend on site at key construction times, and as well ensure compliance with engineering drawings as they pertain to KCCA lands.
Questions or comments? Linda?
Has this conversation taken place with the city at all? Yes?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, to Linda, so by motion of the board previously, Riggs Engineering has been working with the city engineer in terms of reviewing and providing guidance back and forth on this. So if you're asking, is the city aware of Riggs Engineering involvement in the project? Yes.
But there's an additional cost there, is that my understanding, or
That's right.
was that part of the budget?
It's $4,000 plus HST.
But this would be for our services
Oh,
and
okay.
our review,
All right.
so that we have confidence in what is happening on our land.
Yeah, just because it's been before the city council, and I just want to make sure I know what we're asking. Okay.
Any further questions? I have a mover and seconder to approve the expenditure. Ralph and Steve. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. And next we have the Dalewood Dam inspection.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This year, earlier this year, we had several big rain events, big flood events, spring freshet, a lot of water went through the system. After every major flood or high water event, KCCA staff inspect all of our dam structures just to make sure visually that there's no issues, that we're not seeing any problems with the dams. However, in light of those big events that we had this year, and because it's timely, because of this the Dalewood Bridge replacement project that is moving forward, KCCA staff are looking to conduct a full inspection of the Dalewood Dam. This would allow all of the entire structure to be looked at comprehensively, all of the dam deck, all the mortar works, training walls, embankments, stop logs, all those things that make up the dam. KCCA requested quotes from 3 engineering firms that are well respected in our area, that we have either have a long-term working relationship with or have come highly recommended. We received quotes from Watech Services and BM Ross Associates. We did not receive a quote from Riggs Engineering, however, they are included in the Watech Services proposal. Watech Services came back with a price of just over $10,000, and Ross came back with a price with just over $12,000, both plus HST. The main difference, other than price, is that Watech Services includes an underwater inspection component, which is not included in the BM Ross quote. That allows for the structure to be completely looked at underwater and above water. Staff anticipate that that final inspection price may be scoped again with the work for the offsetting project that will happen with the Dalewood Dam Bridge, so price may actually go down potentially. That inspection cost was not budgeted for 2018. Long-term full inspection of the dam will inform future capital planning and budgets. Reserve for 2018 surplus funds would be required to cover the expense of that inspection. Just to keep in mind, the WECI program, the Water and Erosion Control Infrastructure Program, that is an M&R funding program for dams and erosion structures. They do provide funding for up to 50% of the cost of doing inspections, which is part of their study component of that funding program. This year, there is unfortunately no more money available for that program. The program was oversubscribed, as well as some major projects went through, so the scoring was very high, and KCCA probably wouldn't have gotten funding anyway. However, there's always the chance that we could apply for it next year in the 2019-2020 funding year, but that funding isn't guaranteed.
Questions? Bill?
Yeah, I think this is a wise time to do this with the drawdown with the bridge construction and everything, so I support it, to move that recommendation.
So you would move that? Max? Max seconds. Further questions? Marcel?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The safety of our community is very important, and if this is a safety issue, I think we need to do it. But because we didn't budget for it, it makes me question why wasn't this seen during the budget process? And so a couple questions that arose in my mind as I read this report is, when was the dam built? What was the duration that the dam was expected to its life? And when it was built, what were the plans for inspection at that point? As in, if we're doing this as a knee-jerk because of a bit of concern versus if this is a true safety thing that was planned to be done from the start, great. I just need a little more background as to why we're doing it this year when we didn't plan for it in the budget.
I think the main reason, Mr. Chair, that we may be doing it this year, rather than what I was planning on in terms of looking at the possibility for next year, is one is the two major high water events that we had this year. That would compel us to do a full inspection of the dam, and those happened after the budget process was in place.
So sorry, just because of so far you didn't answer the question that I asked. Were the high water events beyond the design for the dam?
The high water events, particularly the one on February 23rd, was lapping the deck of the dam. So it's the highest water event that I've seen in my time frame that would cause me to, again, and I think it was brought up at this board meeting, as to should we have a full inspection of that dam by a qualified engineer rather than just relying on staff inspection because of that high water event, which was followed closely behind by a month later by another high water event, not to the extent of the February one, but again, another high water event that was atypical of ones that we've seen in the past.
So, okay, let's start at the beginning. When was the dam built?
The dam was built, there,
1930, I believe,
the last full inspection was done in
2014.
And the event that we had, was it designed for that event?
I can,
If I can help you with that. The dam wasn't originally constructed for flood control purposes. It was, I don't know the term, but the St. Thomas Energy at the time used it in correlation with the water tower. So, and then when the authority assumed ownership, the deck structure was put on with the operating. So in terms of the design expectancies, we didn't have any overflow of the embankments. So I would say it was within the potential design capacity, but nearing potential risk with overtopping the deck.
And I'm not an expert to know, I'm just asking the questions because it wasn't budgeted, and I don't know what the normal planned inspection durations are, and it just seems out of sync with that, and as a result, to spend $10,000 when it wasn't budgeted, I think we need to ask some questions.
sure.
Bill?
Yeah, whether it's budget or not, I can tell you, Mr. Chair, I think that I commend staff for bringing this forward at this time, because I think it's, again, I said, it's money well spent, because it sounds like it's going to be a very thorough investigation underwater, everything, and then we'll have a snapshot picture in time of that dam with the inspection, with everything, and I just think it's good use of money, so.
Anything further? Linda?
So I'm pleased actually that staff brought forward, and given the age of it, I imagine it's now past its age, given that year, is there anything further we need to do? I know the inspection will happen, and waiting for funding might be something that could be often quite future, I don't know. We gotta look at all the opportunities for funding opportunities, but should we be putting money away as well? So maybe that could be considered during the next budget deliberations, that we're looking at ways of how we're going to fund this. And I mean, just given its age alone and the different things and different expectations we would have with this dam now, it probably should be doing some other things. And one of them might be that flood control. I'm not sure that's necessary. That's not my expertise, but through the recommendations that come forward, I think we need to start stepping it up and having a look at it in our next budget deliberations.
Oh, Mr. Chair, to Linda, one thing to consider is that every time we have an engineer look at the dam and do repairs or changes to it, it extends that end of life date.
Yeah.
So
What would you consider the end of life? Would you say we're there?
I cannot answer
I
that.
think that's something that the engineers could tell
So
us.
that would be a specific question I would like to know from the engineers, and
That-
what the longevity is going to be.
That is one thing that we are requesting from the engineers,
Yeah.
to provide that information, as well as provide recommendations for ongoing maintenance
Right.
moving forward after we have that snapshot of the dam.
Because there will be a consideration of what it's going to cost us to maintain it or build new, right?
And then there's that study, that engineering report also gives us things that we can use moving forward as part of WECI funding requests.
Steve?
There obviously is a cycle of inspection for the dam. What is the normal cycle? How many years between full inspections? Or do we have a set cycle?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Steve, there's no set schedule per se. It's more as we see things that come up that we are looking forward to do some maintenance or repairs, then we look at those and that moves things forward.
Should we set a cycle operationally so that we can assure that we can save the money for such a thing? And it's no different than bridges, for example, right?
You had that Yeah, I would go along with what you're saying, Steve. I think the key here is the report that we're having is that we should have a full inspection, and I agree with that full-heartedly, that we should have a full inspection. There's been a couple of events, and we don't need to wait until something catastrophic happens. So it makes sense to do the inspection. Once we have the inspection, I think some of those answers and questions will be resolved, or at least we can move forward and set a policy as to how often we inspect that. And there's different ways. There's full inspections, and there's probably just routine maintenance inspections.
So, Mr. Chair to Steve, we do, KCCA staff does do seasonal inspections of all of our structures every single year in the spring and fall. It includes a full list of things that we look at, photos, and then we make notes of things that need to be done. So,
And I'm not casting aspersions or anything like that. I'm not suggesting you're not doing your job. All I'm saying is to Marcel's point, you know, is this a premature inspection or is this a scheduled inspection? If we don't have a scheduled inspection, maybe we should have a schedule so that we can turn around and go, okay, it's going to cost me $10,000 in 2022 or 2023.
Right.
And information that we receive from this full inspection will probably be able to allow us to set up that kind of timeline.
Right, set that policy. Right. Marcel?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in 2014, so the report talks about some valve inspection in 2013. Was that independent of the 2014 inspection?
Mr. Chair, to Marcel, 2014 sticks in my mind, but it may not be correct.
So it'd be interesting to know what the 2013-14 report suggested as far as, so Was it a full inspection similar to what we're doing here, or is this one much more comprehensive?
Mr. Chair, this one is much more comprehensive.
That's important.
The ones that happened in 2014 were a request of staff for the engineer to come out and do kind of like a visual inspection of specific concerns that staff had noted. The 2013 one was a result of the valve actually, the low flow valve actually getting jammed open. And so that inspection was specifically for the low flow valve.
So has
So it's
there
been
ever
some time,
been,
I would say 25 years ago since there's been a full inspection of the dam. Maybe like late 80s.
Yeah.
So, through the chair, so Elizabeth, where is the money coming from?
I'm suggesting that I'm confident that there'd be surplus funds at the end of the year of 10,000 because of cost savings that we were going to have relative to staff savings that we can redirect to this project.
Okay.
And if not, I would suggest, I guess, when we have to dip into reserves if
And,
need be.
that's
Need
for
Right, and that's what your reserves are for, is for those unexpected expenditures. Any further debate on that? We have the mover and seconder. See none, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Planning and regulations?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report went out in your advance package, just a couple of planning applications with no concerns, and a handful of public and private permits were issued, and one noteworthy is we did officially issue the permit for the Dalewood Bridge replacement and the offsetting that we spoke to earlier. There was endorsement from the board earlier this year, and now all of the Ts are crossed and Is dotted, so the official paperwork's been issued, and they're getting progressing with getting ready to do that work.
Any questions on any of these? Seeing none, can we have a mover and seconder receive? We have Linda, Steve, all in favor? That's carried. And I guess going to close. The mover and seconder going to close.
Motion to close.
Linda and Ralph, all in favor? That's carried.
Sometime, I think it would be a good idea if somebody would straighten that clock, it bothers me.
Okay, now that we're out of close, is there anything to report from closed, or just staff direction?
Like staff direction on the personnel item.
And as well on the legal matter, potential litigation.
So we should do on B then, what's the potential litigation? I need a mover and seconder.
Do we need a motion for that?
No,
Do we?
I don't think we do.
I was just wondering if we needed direction.
Gee, sorry, I got one for the agenda.
It's basically, you need to give, to advise that you've given staff direction.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can we do the motion for the minutes first?
And a motion for the minutes, okay. So I need a motion for the in-camera minutes.
And, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Bill? Ralph? All in favor? That's carried.
Proceed as directed for item B.
Mover and seconder. On B then, to proceed as directed. That's how I do it at Central Island. That's fine. Marcel? Max? All in favor? That's carried. Section 28.
We can send the letters out as executed.
Okay. D, I need a mover and seconder to proceed. Bill? Ralph? I'm starting to forget names. All in favor? Carried. And anything on,
Staff proceed, staff proceed. Oh, do we do?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
I don't think you got a motion.
That's what I thought.
on which one?
Oh, to execute the letters in regard to
Section 28 violation.
Section 28.
violation.
To execute the letters, okay. Any mover and seconder on that? Bill? Max? All in favor? Carried.
You don't need anything on the final.
Nothing there. So that that's it.
Yeah.
Mover and seconder to adjourn. Marcel and Ralph, all in favor? Carried.
Now that we're adjourned, how to spell that?